Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Daily Sib. As you may have seen yesterday, that we weren't able to use the software at all, and so we did do a very quick Zoom version because the person was calling from the Himalayas. Today with Stuart, we were on the edge of we'll just reschedule because I really prefer this live format, but we cracked it thanks to Stuart's ingenuity, and it was literally to do with not having other apps with the camera on. So anyway, tech bits aside, we are here and we're ready to rock and roll. I hope you've all had a good week. It's obviously Friday and everyone's getting set for the weekend now. But Stuart, here we are. Thank you for joining me today.
As well, thanks for letting me come on. Yeah, it's been looking forward to it.
Definitely, mate. Well, a few bits to obviously, but every time we have an interview on the Daily Sip, there's so many different tangents, but I always sort of focus it on a core topic. And yours is actually, it's been a big passion for you and a big, it's now your job as well around wheelchair skills, which is a very specific but very important skill for, I suppose, 1.2 million people. They say in the UK there's about 1.2 million people with a wheelchair. So tell us your story, really. How did you get into this as a passion and now as a job?
But it's all started off, I had a car accident when I was 17, and it started off, I was in my standing frame. I was about 19 watching Boys in the Hood. I don't know if you've seen the film.
And that's one of my favourite films as a kid.
And there's a scene where there's an actor called Reggie Green. He's paraplegic, and he drops down off a porch, down like 3 or 4 steps.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to learn that. And admittedly, after a few pints of Dutch courage, I attempted it, but I didn't. I could do curbs, and I could do with undulating terrain and stuff. And there was a set of steps in the pub up to the raised pool table, and I tried to attempt that, and I failed. And I didn't think about how to do it. And I was saved by my mates. I was very grateful my mates caught me or picked me up after many crashes. And then after a couple of years, I was at my first job, and I ended up back in my first job after my injury. I ended up back in hospital, and I came out of hospital, and they noticed that I may have been not leading as an active life as someone could with an injury. I'd go to work, but then in the evenings I'd spend it in the pub, and which is fine if you sort of control it and you're sensible. But the staff at the hospital to see I was going sort of maybe a little bit off the road, and they encouraged me to go on a course with a spinal injuries charity, and I did it. Came back a different person, and then I did another course the next year, and then about a year after that, they called me up. They said, we noticed your wheelchair skills pretty good. Would you be interested in developing a wheelchair skills project with us? And this is, we had spinal injuries charity backup. And I jumped to the chance. I volunteered for them, going around teaching wheelchair skills at various spinal centres and on their courses that they did, because I wasn't in favour of going on holiday with my mates to, with 20, 25, going to Ibiza and wherever. It just didn't interest me. So I'd use my week's holiday from work to go on a residential course to teach wheelchair skills. And I found it really rewarding. And then over the time, I ended up working for the charity as an outreach coordinator, still teaching skills, finding it really rewarding. And then I live in a little village just outside West London, and I had people come up to me with brittle bones and MS and stuff going, separate times going, I saw you going to shop the other day. You couldn't show me how you popped up the curb. And I was like, yeah, I don't mind. So I knew there was a need for this training for people because unfortunately the spinal injuries charity could only teach people with spinal injury. So I really wanted to venture down into that business market, job market, whatever, to give up people that opportunity to be able to learn these vital skills. And after working for the charity for 8 years, I had a should we say, a bit of a health incident, and it was a time for me to say, right, I need to hang this up, move on. It's time to change a little bit. So I said to my wife, I was laying in Stoke Mandeville Hospital, and I said to my wife, I'm going to resign from the charity. And she's like, "Oh, what are you going to do? Don't do anything rash, you know." And I said, "I'm going to start up my own wheelchair skills training business." So I spent 6 months. I resigned. I spent 6 months talking to solicitors, designing my website and insurance companies and stuff. And then I pressed the button on the computer. The website went live on the 4th of June 2015. And believe it or not, the phone rang the next day. And it's just barrel rolled from there. And it's, you know, I offer peer-led skills, which is, you know, I live in a wheelchair. I've been in a wheelchair for 27 years now.
Yeah.
And I've experienced a lot. And I know there's a lot of people that have, but there's a lot of people that either don't get that encouragement, or they turn out and push a chair from an able-bodied OT or an able-bodied physio. They do a good job, don't get me wrong. They do a great job. Yeah. But it's not peer-led, it's not from the heart. You know, I'm T4 paraplegic. I ain't got any bone. I can't move from there down. So if I lean, I'm going to go. And it's being more aware of the end user's needs.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, that's really how it's started up. Yeah,
I love the fact that Boys in the Hood inspired this whole story and journey, because me and my stepbrother used to be so into hip hop, but still am now. But like when we were teenagers, we like go around rural Cambridgeshire like we were in Boys in the Hood. That's wicked that it started that journey for your wheelchair skills. I also love it when a topic really strikes a chord with the viewers, and this is why I'm so glad we persevered with the doing it live today. We've got four comments already. Kim saying, because I obviously you can see at the bottom, Stu, I put how do people learn to use a wheelchair, and Kim said instinctively and trial and error by our experience. Whereas I guess what you're offering is that actual sort of way of learning for people, not to only have trial and error, but to be able to have a day or a week or a period of time to get your expertise and help. Shani's saying, this is such a great topic. I had to take wheelchair proficiency tests at primary school.
I mean, every training session I do mostly one-to-ones. I do groups as well, but I do an assessment call with the individuals or professional that knows them well to really work out their needs, their goals, and their abilities, and that helps me plan the training as well. You know, one of the questions is, for example, after going through what their disability is and what their abilities are, I just say to them straight, what do you want to get out of it?
Yeah.
And then I can use that time, you know, maybe they can push a chair, but can they push it effectively where the chair is doing the work for them in good timing to be able to get up that curb or get over that, around that pothole and stuff. So, you know, each one is tailored for the individuals. And,
that's,
you know, that time.
It's coaching as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And a lot of encouragement. And, you know, I try to put a scenario where the skill's gone wrong for me and why it's a good idea to get it right. And, it will take practice. It doesn't happen just like that. And, you know, and I remember I lived in my mum and dad's front room for 6 years and I hated it. And that's maybe why I spent a lot of time in other establishments, should we say. And I'd push down the road and I'd come in. First time I'd done it, I was just at home for a weekend and the drop curb, the path was cambered so tightly and with such a degree, I thought I was just going to tip out the side of my chair. And just by luck, my mate's uncle pulled up, jumped out of his car, said, "Oh, I haven't seen you, you know, how you doing, brother?" I said, "Oh, can you stand there to make sure I don't fall out the side?" And I went down and then I'd done it several more times, and I was popping the front wheels up on the way down. Then before I knew it, I was up, front wheels up, down, bang into the road, across the road, up the other side, and just with the repetition. And sometimes it did go wrong. Sometimes I did do it first, but you know, it's part of learning.
No, exactly. It's not like you have an hour or a day in anything, not just with wheelchair skills, but in anything, you don't just get it. It's always that hard work and practice and repetition. But the motivation is that it enhances your life and makes it easier, right?
Yeah. Makes your quality of life better.
Yeah.
And learning just efficient pushing technique saves wear and tear on your shoulders, because when I was injured, it was like get up and go, and I got shown how to do one curb, and there's no two curbs exactly the same on any one journey you take, but there wasn't any awareness of my looking after my shoulders, or not that I remember anyway.
Yeah.
And I developed the technique to push the chair where the chair doesn't work for me, and I'm using my full shoulder joint and not just using the front of it. And then with the charity, we developed it more. We had physios and OTs join in with it and make sure we were getting it right and not hurting our shoulders.
Well, yeah, the longevity that in your 20s you might be able to do it, not like as perfectly, if you like, but as you're pushing your chair around for life, you need to look after those shoulders and everything, don't you?
Sure, yeah. And with technology, there's now all these power aids that help, but then the financial strain with paying for them, and then it is something else you need to consider. Is it charged up? Can I go on a plane with it? I'm going to go on holiday with it. Have I packed it in the car when you're halfway down the M40 and suddenly you realise you haven't took it with you or something? So all those bits sort of like make the reason for getting the techniques right more of a good reason, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely does. I'll go into a couple more comments. I've still got some plenty more to meander around the backstory, but I think it's nice to bring in the viewers' thoughts and questions. And Moni said, I had to take a test with wheelchair services to check I could drive it safely, including crossing the road when I was about 7. Nearly 20 years later, I'm pretty sure I don't stick to anything they told me. And then Moni, this is more of a question. I'll read it and then I'll take it off because it's covering us. But do you also include how to drive various styles of chairs and front, mid and back wheel drive, all drive, particularly when turning so differently? I feel like I only even be able to have front wheel drive chairs as I struggle so much in mid and back wheel drive. However, wheelchair services do not provide front wheels, so it means I have to privately fund my chairs. But yeah, it's good to talk a bit more about what kind of range of people you're able to support or not. Obviously there may be certain things you don't do as well.
I mean, primarily it is manual wheelchair skills training, but I have got some experience in supporting people in power chairs, and I've done probably only 3 power chair skills training sessions, and obviously I'm not a power chair user. I don't use one at all, but I've got friends that do use power chairs. I've been out with them, so I've seen how they operate. And with the wonders of modern technology, the 3 sessions I did in power chairs, I on the assessment questionnaire, find out the type of chair, the make and model, and I can research it to find out what its abilities are. Although each individual chair is obviously set up differently and might have different software for the control panels and stuff, I make sure I know whether that chair is able to do up a curb. And if it has, what size curb? Has it got a curb climber on it? And has it got tilt space? So then if they do go down quite a steep slope, can they adjust the tilting so to distribute their body weight better? And then also turning, and where that centre of gravity is to turn a chair, and mid-wheel drives are the best for turning. Front-wheel drive, the back swings out. Rear-wheel drive, the front swings out. So, and it's taking all those little bits into consideration to be able to offer that training and support for those individuals. But I would signpost to other organisations as well that might have a better understanding than me. So,
Yeah, when you said sort of talked about that coaching perspective, like that's applicable. It's around confidence and setting goals and moving forward. And I guess that's applicable to all kind of wheelchairs, all kind of different types of disabilities. And then obviously your core expertise from lived experiences with the manual one, and so there's probably a bit more knowledge and experience to that, but it doesn't discount by the sound of it for the other ones as well. So so back more into your story. I mean, as you know, like a lot of the chats, particularly with people like yourself, where it's your own business and there's an entrepreneurial nature to it. I mean, you said the phone was ringing straight away, and there's obviously a big, demand off the bat. How does it sort of work with, like, do people privately fund for the sessions, or have you got some partnerships with charities or government, and like how does the funding work basically?
Mostly it's private funded from most of the training is one-to-one. I have done group sessions with charities and organisations. Did a paediatric one for Shine. We've done a couple of those, and I go to a private rehabilitation centre in Aylesbury that call me in as and when I'm needed, depending on what patients they've got and how their patients are developing. But mostly it is private funded. Some people have done GoFundMe pages to fund it, which was actually when she asked for the quote, and she'd done it in 24 hours. She just put it out there for once, and then she called me back basically within 48 hours and said, I've got to raise it and petrol money to come up from the South Coast.
Right. Wow.
So that was really good that people were there to support her. I've not. People have approached Access to Work for it, and I don't know whether it was declined or the money went elsewhere. But those, that was an option available for them. But unfortunately, those sessions didn't materialise anyway. I'm not sure.
Because I was also thinking of different government funding as like the direct payment for. I suppose direct payment is very much care related, isn't it? But anyway, I mean, I think that obviously, there's a need that people have, and I think as a community, there's the government could pay because, it's a bit sort of not always ideal, shall we say, for the person to have those expenses. However, that is where it is, and obviously you can't do it to your full time and full best of your abilities and not earn a living. And I'm sure people understand that you still do need to make a living from what you do. But what sort of either tell us the price now, or where can people, if someone's watching, they're interested, like how can they get a quote and all that kind of stuff?
They can contact me, email me, or give me a call, and I can work a quote out for them depending on if they come to me. Ideally, if they come to me, I've got a local hall that I hire with ramps, curbs, steps, and everything that's ideal. But if I go to them, unfortunately, I have to include travel expenses. I try to keep the prices reasonable for everybody. So everybody can afford it. But they can I get worried sometimes it might be too high, but I try to keep it as low as possible. But if people want to contact me individually, and then I can work out prices for them.
And as you said, it's that quality of life. And so like the person that did the GoFundMe page, and all the rest of it, there are ways of, if someone can't afford it, I'm sure there are ways that there can be funding. But equally, if someone particularly is working, then they'll be able to afford, and it's going to make their life a lot better in the long run. As well.
And I believe couple of clients have had their companies help with that funding.
Their
companies part of their budget that helps maintain their employees' well-being also, and they've contributed towards that as well, which is it's good that they were able to manage to get those skills then, and live more active, independent lives. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. So when did this launch? When you sort of said you ended up going full time after taking a few months to prep for it, what year was that?
June the 4th, 2015.
Right.
Which was actually the 22nd anniversary of my road traffic accident.
Okay.
But because I was in an induced coma for a month because I had a head injury. So I left school June 92. I hated school. I just wanted to get out there and work, and I got a job. My uncle got me a job in a sheet metal factory, making fabrication out from a technical drawing, and I loved it. Getting dirty, going home with cuts and bruises, and then I just came round, or I didn't come round. I started remembering things in July 1993, and my mum said I'd been in it. Well, I've said people, I was laying in hospital, and my mum and dad were there, and apparently I'd been in a car accident. I didn't have any clue about. And then, so 22 years after that day, that's when the website went live. And it's been a interesting journey. I've had several jobs over the time before working for myself. My first job, I got up at 5 o'clock every day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And when I got laid off from that job, I was like, if I can, it took a lot out of me. I didn't have any quality time to myself and look after my spinal injury. So when they laid me off from that, I got a part-time job. I took a big pay cut, got a part-time job at a local supermarket, which was all right, it worked, it was local. But then that's when I started volunteering more for the spinal injury charity. So my time was filled up, and I feel that's a very important part of having an active life, whether you've got a disability or you haven't got a disability. Keeping busy and keeping active is the most important thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, I guess a couple more sort of things to touch on before we wrap up. I mean, how has it been lately? Obviously, COVID's affected everyone in lots of ways. I mean, as I imagine it's hit the business the last few months, right?
Yeah, big, very, very. It hit me bad. But in a way, it's I've done one job, and I've had quite inquiries come in, so I'm keeping on top of inquiries. It's just taking that step to say I've got all the PPE, personal protective equipment. I've got I'm safe, but it's taking that risk whether I want to go to someone and risk that journey time, risk stopping at the services. Or if they come to me, then it's the risk for them as well. Which is a big concern. So it's been difficult. But on the flip side of that, my son, school closed 22nd of March, and he had 3 months at home. And my wife, she works at a university that closed, but she has to work remotely. And I've got a 7-year-old, and he's great little boy, it's lovely, but they need attention. So my wife has been able to work, and I've been able to do daddy, and I turned into the head chef at home. So I'm cooking, playing, and then trying to keep on top of freedom wheelchair skills at the same time. And then Jacob went back to school for 4 weeks. So it was great back, but he was doing part-time because they split the class up. So I was able to get back onto, make sure I got back to all my inquiries that had come through. And now he's on school holidays, and then we're back to me playing and me, and keeping busy with him for the time being. But, I keep up with my inquiries as often as I can.
Yeah. And the thing is that even without COVID, work's important. If you run your own business, it can, be more demanding when the buck stops with you. But, you got to look after health, life goes on, you got family, there's all these other things that have to be seen to. And obviously, within COVID, it's been great, as you're sort of saying, that you could be there for your little boy, and your wife was still working remotely. And, it's thrown everything all over the place. But I suppose one thing I wondered, have you been able to do any support remotely? I guess it's a very sort of tangible, action-oriented learning, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite difficult to do it remotely because I need to be there. Each client has to have an able-bodied spotter with them, so to prevent any injury, and have to make sure when I'm training someone, for example, when we started to lift front casters off the ground to get over an obstacle or get up a curb, the spotter's behind them, and I have to make sure that they're there and on the ball in case the person being trained does lose their balance, to prevent any injury and stuff. And part of the thing with wheelchair skills training as well, the face-to-face side of it is me giving my my training, but also my examples of when things have gone wrong, and you don't know how many people, or you probably do, ask about flying. 9 times out of 10, while they're doing the training, they always say, when I was in America, this happened. We went to Disney with my little boy, and they say, "Oh, you flew," and and it's just that side of it. And then the training we have a break during the training, obviously. Then the chat goes back to the peer stuff, like, how do I get on the plane? What happens to my chair? And just little things like that, or going into restaurants, or just those bits. So a lot of it's me, as well as the training. So, and that's quite hard to deliver remotely. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, and just last question, really, to the future. I mean, I get you've alluded to, like virtuals, not because some people have gone like, oh, COVID came and we're doing it all differently now. And I mean, obviously, I think, as you've just explained, there's a need for that in-person side. But any other general sort of, once COVID's gone, any other, goals or ambitions you've got for the business into the future?
The business is to try and reach out and introduce myself to more people, whether that is virtually or going to exhibitions, and doing it face to face. As in growth for the business, there's been discussion about expanding it to other areas of the country, but it gets complicated with doing like franchises or whatever. So at the moment, it's just sticking it with me, and I can go to people or they can come to me, and just try and get on with life as much as I can and be happy and not be too paranoid about this virus, because if I'm honest, Martin, I'm a little bit scared. Every time I bump into someone and they're talking down to me, and I'm like, am I vulnerable now? Am I more vulnerable than if I was stood up? Because and I just hope the Paul Weller gig that got cancelled this year comes back next year.
Get priority straight, eh? Totally. I've got 2 other comments to bring up. Kim was saying, my daughter had to prove she could drive a chair at 2 to get one. Dean Joseph, smart wheelchairs and WizKids OT were key in encouraging local services to allow Ellie to have and use her first power chair. And I have to echo Kim's story about Ellie. I know Kim and Ellie personally. I had my first proper power chair when I was 3, so it wasn't a lot older than 2, and I never managed to hurt any of my fellow nursery members, despite being sat in a massive machine driving it around. So, and Kath, basically, sort of when we were talking about the core element of coaching being, universal, but then the sort of lived experience of manual chairs, and power chairs maybe having certain value. And I know Kath does a lot around power chairs particularly as well. So shout out to Kath. And also, I mean, I say this all the time, but anyone that wants to come on like Stuart is today, just reach out to me, and it's just great to meet people and share stories and raise awareness of all this different things around disability and inclusion. So, and Kevin is saying, thanks for sharing, it was very interesting. So
cool, thanks. Cool. And it's great to be able to come on, and thanks for having me on, Martin.
No, a pleasure, mate. Well, where can people find you? One last www.freedomwheelchairskills.co.uk, or the numbers on the website, but it's 07482151537. Sorry, the amount of numbers going around the head, but I'm based just outside High Wycombe in South Bucks, which is good motorway links to it, but I can also travel to people as well. Yeah. All right, mate. Well, Freedom Wheelchair Skills, is that right?
Yeah, freedomwheelchairsskills.co.uk.
And they can get the details on there as well. Brilliant.
Emails and everything.
Christine is saying, fab session. Thanks both. Really interesting. So thanks for commenting, Christine. And everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. We look forward to having you on the show sometime soon, Kath, to talk about what you've been up to. And yeah, everyone have a fantastic weekend. Don't get too sunburned and too hot. It's going to be a scorcher by the sound of it.
Scorcher.
And I'll be back. A scorcher indeed. Scorchio. And I'll be back on Monday for the next episode. Thanks again, Stuart.
No, thanks, Martin. Cheers.